and welcome back to Sewing with Emma episode 5. So today we are focusing on the Thumbelina outfit from the 90s movie, essentially my own take on it. So I've been doing outfits monthly. This year my goal was to do 12 cosplays or outfits or anything along those lines. Since I've graduated from school, I wanted to start setting goals for myself when it came to sewing. For January, I started on my sparkly black dress. For February, I did my pink Giselle dress. For March, I did a Marilyn Monroe dress, but I used a pattern that already had a tutorial, so I didn't feel it was right to make a tutorial based on a pattern that had a full tutorial. For April, I decided to do Thumbelina because it felt very spring, very Renaissance fair, and even though this will be coming out closer to summer, it felt right. But when I was starting to look at it, I knew I wanted the colors to be fairly similar to what she wears in the movie, but when it came to the actual shape, I didn't care if it was a little bit off. So I started with a pattern for a blouse, and it was a really, really good pattern. I highly recommend. Like always, I will always link any patterns I use in the comments below. But for this one, I wanted a very light, airy, something very puffy. In this case, I knew that I was gonna have a corset. I knew I was gonna have a skirt. You wouldn't see the whole blouse. So I shortened the blouse just a tiny bit, and I also made sure to add a little bit of puffiness to the sleeves. So I added 2 inches on either side and then added 2 inches to the armhole so that it would fit inside of the sleeve. When it came to fabric, I decided that I wanted something like a soft linen. However, finding linen for under $20 a yard is almost impossible, and just finding linen in general at any fabric store for some reason is very difficult. So I ended up finding this silver embroidered cotton, which I did not love, in all honesty, when I started. However, as I kept using it, I was like, we're just gonna have to lean into the silver vibes, because if not, then I'm afraid I'm gonna have to start all over just because I didn't love the fabric. However, if you're looking for fabric, you're willing to wait for shipping, I'm so impatient. So I have to just go to my fabric store, and if there's anything even remotely close to what I could use, I usually just use that. When I started on the blouse, I just sewed the shoulder seams together, sewed the side seams together, easy. Then when it came to the sleeves, I gathered the top, which is essentially just using a running stitch, which is a longer stitch. So what I set my stitch length to is 4.5. What usually is a traditional stitch length is 2.5. So I would just say go as high as your sewing machine can go. Mine can only go to 4.5. So I did that twice, because if you do it twice, one closer to the top, one a little bit under, it will give it a lot more body. So I did it twice. I pulled the loose strings. Do not cut the strings off. That will defeat the whole purpose of doing a running stitch. And then I inserted it into the sleeve hole, sewed the sleeves around, and I got these really nice puffy sleeves, which I was really happy with. I wanted a little tie. The pattern came with a tie, which was really nice. So I essentially just took a long piece of white fabric. I cut it into a very long rectangle with short sides, and then I folded it in twice on either side, and then I sewed that. You can either sew along those sides or you can use an iron to press it. A lot of people prefer the iron. I have ruined so much fabric by using an iron, which I know is just a skill issue on my end, but if you feel more comfortable using an iron, please, by all means. Once I had sewn that together, I folded it completely together, just in half, so you couldn't see any raw edges, and then I stitched along the top. You can also press that. I wouldn't recommend that because then you won't have completely folded in edges. I would say use a stitch for that one. Then I tacked it onto the front right here, and I thought I was done, but I was looking at the blouse and was like, this is quite plain. I went back to the fabric store, M&L Fabrics like always, and I got this blue sort of baby blanket trim, and I made sure to ask my family and friends, does this look like baby blanket trim? And they were like, no. And I was like, all right. So I took their word for it. So sorry if it does, but I thought it looked really cute along the edges of the ruffles. And then I added this very small charm to each side of the sleeves just to enhance the silver of the outfit. It's just a silver and diamond flower. You can find whatever charms you want. I was even gonna put little leaves around it, but I grew lazy, so I did not end up doing that. When it came to the skirt, I never use a pattern for circle skirts. Circle skirts are like my livelihood. If someone said you can only make one thing for the rest of your life, I would make a circle skirt because you can do anything with that. So I was like, I have to do it for this, because when I had decided to make this outfit at work, they were watching Thumbelina, and I was like, oh my goodness, I don't remember her skirt being so flowy, and she was spinning all over the place. I hadn't seen this movie since I was a kid, and I was like, oh, I definitely need this skirt. And so this was the main focus of the outfit for me. What I usually do with my circle skirt pattern is I measure my waist, and then I take my waist measurement and I divide it by 6.28. That will give you the circumference of your waist. And then you fold your fabric in half again. And then at the point where it's folded on both sides, you're going to trace from the edge. Say that the calculations were 4.25. I think that's what mine was. You measure from the tip out until you have a little quarter circle, and then you trace it with fabric chalk, and then you know that's where you're going to start. From there, you have to decide on the length. That can be anything. You can have the shortest little circle skirt, or you can have it as long as your fabric will allow. So what I did is I measured from my belly button all the way down to my ankles because I knew I wanted it long like hers. And then I used that from, not from the tip of the fabric, but from the quarter circle that you've already made. You're gonna measure from there to the edge of your fabric all the way around until you have a quarter circle in all of the means that there are. You'll cut out the little quarter circle, you'll cut out the big quarter circle, you'll unfold it, and you'll essentially have a circle skirt. The only thing you'll have to do after that is you'll have to sew up the back of the open seam about 2/3 of the way, because the other third is going to be for a zipper. And then when you're inputting the zipper, I used a forest green zipper because I wanted it to sort of match what I was going to do with the trim. It does not match that well, but if I would have known the color of the trim I was going to start with, I would have been able to match it a little bit better. So what I do when I'm putting zippers in is you fold it just like normal, right sides together, like this. You sew along this line, you fold it over, and then a lot of the times people will do it again. They'll fold right sides together, they'll sew it, and then they'll tack the bottom. I never do that. It always yields bad results for me. Again, this probably comes down to a skill issue, but what I usually do is I fold the fabric about 1/2 inch inward, and then I top stitch it all the way through the bottom up over the stitch that I just made, so that it just has a nice, you can either do a stitch to match the skirt that you're making, or you can do a contrast stitch. I try to do one to match just in case I made any mistakes. It's a lot easier to hide. But if you're really fond of your zipper skills, then please go ahead and use contrast stitching because it'd probably look quite pretty. When I was done with that, all I had to do was hem the skirt. Hemming a circle skirt takes so much time, so just be prepared to do that. I just did a single rolled hem. It was pretty easy, but it did take a lot of time. And then I was like, this skirt looks a little plain, because I just decided on a plain blue satin that isn't quite the color of Thumbelina's skirt, but initially I was gonna layer it with a chiffon that would have been the color of her skirt, but I was afraid it was gonna look too much like my Wendy or my Hermione dress, both of which were blue satin dresses with blue chiffon over them. And I was like, I can't keep doing the same thing. So I just left it as it was. And then I used this leaf trim that I use for like every 5 projects that I work on, because I got a huge roll of it from Etsy about 3 years ago and I refused to not use all of it. So after that, I was really happy. I had to take a lot of spinning videos with my blouse and my skirt on, but then I was like, I need to make the corset. And I would not say corsets are my favorite things to make, but I tend to always fall into the trap of making a corset anyway. So what I did was I found a pattern on Etsy. It was a wonderful pattern, but I still have yet to find a pattern I absolutely love when it comes to corsets. So I found that pattern, and then I cut out all the pieces. I inserted the boning. I did cut my boning in half because it was too big to fit into the inlets that I had made for myself. You probably shouldn't do that. You should just order the correct boning. I do recommend using zip ties though, because with zip ties you don't have to press the boning down, and you also are able to get it in much easier, and it's a lot cheaper than actual boning. So I highly recommend that. You definitely can't cut it in half though if you end up getting the wrong size. But for regular boning, it was super easy. I put it in, I filed off the end so I didn't stab myself, because I have done that with an outfit before where I was like, everyone says you have to file the end of boning. That's just an extra step. It is not. You will stab yourself. So I highly recommend doing that. And then after I was done, I lined it with the same fabric that I had found. So I had initially wanted a fake leather because I wanted to paint on the corset, but I decided not to do that because my initial image was like, oh, I want to make a sort of Lucy Gray Thumbelina outfit, which in hindsight would have been really cool, but I think I was feeling overwhelmed at the point when I was making this. And so I was like, you know what? We're still gonna get a nice fake leather. We're not gonna paint on it. That's extremely ambitious as of right now, and my painting skills aren't that good anyway. So it probably worked out for the best no matter what. I still ended up finding the perfect color fake leather at M&L Fabrics, which I was really surprised by because this seems like quite a random color. But then I just use white piping on the top, which you can barely see. You might be able to see a little bit under here, probably not here since it matches the blouse so well. I did that to encase the raw edges of the corset, which you usually should use like piping or some sort of casing. Actually hemming a corset is almost impossible and I do not recommend. And then when I was done with that, I was like, you know what, this looks a little plain because that's the theme of this outfit. And I just put the leaves around the edges of the corset. And then I used a forest green ribbon in the back that I was actually happy to say matched the leaves on my corset very well. But before I did any of that, I completely forgot you have to hammer in the grommets. Do not do this when your family is sleeping, because I was like, I want to work on sewing right now because I have nothing to do and I'm not tired. And for some reason, I thought it would be a good idea to use a hammer at 11 p.m. Don't do that. They will hate you forever. So once I had done that, then I laced up the corset. There's a million ways to do that. I just use the out, out, in method. You can do whatever you want. There's some methods that you can tie it a little bit better yourself. I just do the painful thing of flipping it around, tying it, and then flipping it back. With something like this, it's much easier, but if you're doing a corset with straps, I highly recommend using a different method of tying. That was the entire Thumbelina outfit, and now I get to just spin around whenever I want and feel like a fairy, which is really nice because she's not actually a fairy because she doesn't have wings, so I didn't have to make wings, which looks a little bit harder. Yeah, that was pretty much it. If you're looking for a summer dress, then if you're feeling like making a Thumbelina outfit to lounge on the beach, by all means, please do. And if not, then just enjoy this video and let me know your thoughts and what you would like me to make next. Thank you guys so much, and please like and subscribe to my channel if you have the chance. And if not, that's okay, but I would really love it. Thank you so much. Bye.